Welcome back to Factual America, where we dive deep into issues shaping our freedoms and our future. Today, we're tackling a topic that's not just political, but personal: your right to self-defense. Why are there powerful forces right here at home and around the world who want to take away your ability to protect yourself, your family, and your community? Who benefits from restricting your God-given, constitutionally enshrined rights? And what might a country without self-defense look like? Grab a seat, hit that subscribe button, and let's get right into it. Every day we hear politicians and mainstream media pushing for stricter gun control and tighter restrictions on self-defense. They claim it's for public safety. But is that the whole story? If it's truly about protecting the innocent, why do these same voices seem so dismissive of stories where armed citizens successfully defend themselves or stop crime? Why do the facts about defensive gun use rarely make headlines while every misuse is broadcast coast to coast? Let's rewind to the birth of our nation. The founders didn't slip the Second Amendment into the Constitution as an afterthought. They knew that in the hands of a free people, the right to bear arms protected all other rights. Tyranny can only take root in nations where citizens are powerless to resist. That's why countless authoritarian regimes, from Nazi Germany to Stalinist Russia, began their reigns by disarming the populace. But maybe you're thinking, that was then, this is now. Yet the world hasn't changed as much as we'd hope. Around the globe, history shows the same lesson. When governments control all the power, abuse is close behind. Look at Venezuela, where strict gun bans left law-abiding citizens helpless during violent crackdowns. Or Australia, where gun confiscations preceded dramatic increases in home invasions, because criminals, no surprise, don't follow laws. Now here's where it gets interesting. Despite the narrative, recent studies, including some from Harvard and the CDC, suggest that defensive gun use happens hundreds of thousands, even millions of times each year in America. Ordinary people, in extraordinary moments, standing in the breach. But this data rarely gets discussed in the halls of Congress or the evening news. Why would facts like these be so consistently ignored? Here's the first twist, and it's a big one. The campaign against self-defense isn't just about guns, it's about control. When you rely solely on the state for protection, you become dependent. Politicians and bureaucrats claim the power to decide when, where, and if you're allowed to defend yourself. If an intruder breaks into your home, can you afford to wait for the police, if they even come? Or is there something fundamentally American about refusing to be a victim? Let's talk numbers. According to the CDC, there are between 500,000 and 3 million defensive gun uses in the U.S. every year. These are not Wild West showdowns. Most cases involve law-abiding citizens scaring off criminals, often without a single shot fired. But instead of empowering people to protect themselves, many lawmakers penalize them for even trying. Imagine being prosecuted or sued simply for saving your own life. The complicity runs deep. Advocacy groups and media conglomerates pump out stories highlighting every misuse of firearms, but brush aside the role of good guys with guns. Social algorithms, our new censors, bury stories of self-defense under an avalanche of outrage. Why? Because fear is profitable and control is addictive. It all begs the question, if self-defense is such a risk, why do politicians surround themselves with armed security while telling you to accept vulnerability? Why are our most vocal gun control advocates insulated by taxpayer-funded protection, while ordinary citizens are told to call 911 and wait? What does that double standard really say about their priorities? Let's not ignore race either, a topic many avoid. Historically, restrictions on self-defense have been weaponized against minorities, from black codes after the Civil War to modern urban gun bans that often leave law-abiding communities at the mercy of criminals. At every turn, disarmament policies hurt the vulnerable most, while the elite remain protected. Still, proponents of gun control insist that taking away guns, or even limiting non-lethal self-defense, will make us safer. But the data tells a different story. In cities with the strictest gun laws, Chicago, Baltimore, D.C., violent crime rates often soar above the national average. Criminals thrive where honest citizens are disarmed because laws only affect the law-abiding. It doesn't stop at guns. Pepper spray, stun guns, even martial arts tools face restrictions in the US and abroad. In the UK, defending yourself with excessive force, even in your own home, can land you in jail. The message is clear: defend yourself and risk punishment. but let someone else decide your fate, and you're safe. Does that sound reasonable or Orwellian? Let's debunk a common talking point, that more guns mean more crime. In reality, research shows that states with more permissive gun laws often see lower crime rates. Areas allowing concealed carry have, in many cases, experienced drops in violent crime after empowering responsible citizens. Criminals, after all, prefer easy prey, not armed, alert individuals ready to fight back. Here's a personal twist many haven't considered. The right to self-defense isn't just about weapons. It's about mindset. It's about knowing that you are not helpless and that your life and your family matter. Governments that strip away this right insist on you trust them to keep you safe. But what happens if they fail, or worse, if they choose not to? We could talk all day about policy, but let's bring it closer to home. Imagine a daughter walking alone at night, a store owner facing a masked robber, or a grandparent whose doors are kicked in at midnight. In that worst moment, shouldn't they have every legal means to defend themselves? Or must they depend on luck or the mercy of criminals instead of their own courage and preparation? Now let's tackle the philosophy behind it all. The right to self-defense is rooted not just in American law, but in natural law, the belief that each person has moral authority over their own life. When the state restricts that right, it claims ownership over you. The great irony is that many calling for progress are pushing an ancient form of dependency, where only kings and elites enjoyed the right to self-protection. Let's also ask, who profits from a disarmed citizenry? Beyond politicians, massive corporations supply law enforcement and private security with arsenals off-limits to the public. Gun-free zones funnel billions into surveillance, security, and insurance. Meanwhile, communities most in need are left with emergency calls, thoughts and prayers, and empty promises. Of course, the anti-self-defense narrative isn't built just on control, it's built on fear. Every tragedy is politicized before the facts are known. Rallies are organized before the wounded are even healed. But when you peel back the emotion and look at the data, reality is far more nuanced and hopeful. Ordinary people save lives. Deterrence works. Bad guys aren't stopped by laws. They're stopped by resistance. And here's a twist nobody talks about: demoralization. When citizens are taught over and over that self-defense is risky, shameful, or even criminal, many give up their rights voluntarily. It's a subtle erosion, but it's effective. Over time, the will to push back fades, and the culture of resilience that built a free nation is lost. But America is different, for now. Across the country, millions are taking personal safety seriously. Firearm ownership among women and minorities is rising fast, despite relentless pressure. Communities are organizing, learning, and refusing to bow to fear. Why? Because the instinct to defend what you love is universal, and here still considered a virtue. Yet every legislative session brings new proposals to chip away at your right to self-defense. From magazine bans to waiting periods, from restricting pepper spray to criminalizing defensive display. Every common-sense measure, when you dig into the details, hurts the law-abiding far more than the lawless. The slope, as countless countries have learned, is slippery. So what can you do? First, reject the false trade-off between safety and freedom. Demand policies that target criminals, not honest citizens. Support organizations, large and small, standing up for the right to self-defense. Educate your friends, family, and neighbors about the true facts, the real stakes, and the potential costs of losing even a little more ground. If you take away nothing else from today, remember this: your right to self-defense is the foundation of every other right. Without it, free speech withers, privacy vanishes, and the promise of equality becomes a hollow memory. History's lesson is simple: a people unwilling or unable to defend themselves aren't free for long. Thanks for watching Factual America. Now, we want to hear from you. Has your right to defend yourself ever been put to the test? What are your thoughts on the growing movement to restrict self-defense? Drop your stories and opinions in the comments below and tell us what issues you want us to tackle next. Remember, knowledge is power, but only if you use it. Stay informed, stay empowered, and we'll see you in the next episode.